Okay, I'm going to do a quick tutorial and cover how to, once you have a kind of final form or geometry that you want to make a formwork of, how to set up the cut files and add the zipper component in order to assemble the geometry once you've laser cut it. So I'm just going to work from this geometry. This is from the past example. You guys can use the ones that you've chosen. And if we go onto D2L, there's one other thing that you'll need, which is this 3DM Serrano file right here called P2 zipper. You'll have to go ahead and download that file off of your D2L site under Project 2. Okay, so I'm going to start by making a copy of my form. So I want to leave one of them intact. Now what I could also do is I want to label each of the faces of this geometry. And I want to kind of work by breaking up it into pieces so that I can kind of keep track of like how the edges will align and so on and so forth. I'm going to make a new layer called text. Okay. And I'm actually going to use the command dot. You can see this is just another way to like add text. And what's nice about it is you'll be able to see it through the geometry, and it is always facing whichever way you're looking at your geometry. And I'm also going to turn on gumball so I can kind of easily position. I'm just going to go for like the middle, kind of midpoint of each face. Okay. And I would also recommend kind of being methodical about how you order your labels. And we're going to use these after we're done kind of breaking up the model in order to organize the parts when we go to laser cut. Okay. Let's do side faces. Those they're in the right spot. And I'm also going to big front faces. Okay, so I actually want these labels on my exploded one as well, so I could go ahead and type in SEL dot and just copy them from one to the other. Okay, now we're good to go. What I want to do next is actually break apart the model into parts. So I'm going to go ahead and explode this geometry. And oh, why did that work? Oh, ungroup it as well, maybe it's grouped. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to kind of just pull them away. Okay. We can kind of leave those all intact. And what I'm going to do now is unroll the surfaces. Now, this is where it gets kind of messy. I might actually make a new layer now. It can get kind of messy, because what we want to do is use a feature of this command. So if I type in unroll surf and select one of these surfaces, first of all, I can choose the option to explode it. I'm going to a single surface, so I don't need to explode it. I can also choose this option labels, which is great. When I press enter, you can see that new dots have appeared at the edges of this face. So we're looking at 0, 1, 2, 3, and new dots have appeared on my actual unrolled surface. So 0, 1, 2, 3. And what's great about that is we can kind of keep track of basically which edge belongs to which joining edge. So like, for example, I know that edge 3 from face A will join to edge 1 from face B. And I'm actually going to start by kind of arranging them in this way as much as it possibly can, because it's going to make it a little easier and less confusing to make the zippers. So I'll just go through and unroll each one. So again, edge 3 is joining, edge I3 is joining edge A0. And I'm actually going to hide this guy because it's kind of getting in my way. And let's go ahead and do these ones. So you can see how we're going to unroll this guy. I guess the kind of less you actually load it, the easier it is to see. Okay, all right. Unroll this one. So E0 and A1. And I can also at this point actually start adding labels. I'm actually just going to use the command text for the 2D labels. Because, ooh, that's too big. This is where I also want to start using a different layer, because we could actually score these labels onto the laser cut parts. So let's see here, that's A, that's I, that's B, and that's okay. That was H. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do G as well. And so where it does get kind of tricky is where you start to have the geometries flip. For example, G0. Oops, I forgot to move these, I guess. to the wrong spot. Okay, so we can see G0 lines up to A0, or I'm sorry, I0. But let's see. We actually want to go ahead and flip that one. Because we want to make sure we're looking at it from the outside face. Is that right though? Maybe we don't need to flip it. No, yeah, we don't. Sorry, I screwed up. Okay, yeah, we just want to make sure we're looking at the outside face of each one. Okay, so let me label this guy. And now I would go ahead and just unroll these ones separately. And now I'm going to work over from the E. So J3 lines up with E4, J3. Let's see. E, E4 lines up with E2. And this is D. And D. D2 lines up with J0. Okay. Pretty good. D1 goes to D0. Okay. JC. B. Okay. So now we kind of have all the information we need, really, to start to assemble our zipper. Now, the other thing I'm going to do here is actually, you know what? Actually, I'm going to do this a slightly different way. So those are the two faces, right? I'm actually going to take the two sides. In this case, that's F and H. And I'm going to swing them around so they're kind of in the middle between the two faces. I'm going to line those up with E. And we already have a problem. H4. I swung that around the wrong way. Okay. I'm going to go to top view. I'm just going to organize myself a little bit here. I'm going to tighten up my layout. And what I want to do next is draw some construction lines. I'm going to kind of use that as my guide. In working out how the zippers will go. Oh, what happened there? That's weird there. Okay, cool. Just move this out of the way a little bit. And now I'm going to use another new layer, and we call this my dashed line. Hopefully I spelled that right. Give it another color. And I'm also going to make it dashed. Okay. And what I want to do now is actually draw lines between the endpoints of all the joining faces on this new layer. Because that's going to help me organize what the ends are. First, I'll just start with these edges in here. Okay. Okay, and I'm also going to draw arcs for these bigger ones and make it a little more confusing. I'm just using the start and end point. That way we can kind of keep the lines out of the way of each other. Okay. Oops. And do the same on this side. There we go. And again, those lines are just for us so we can keep track of, you know, this corner, this end of this line lines up with this end of that line, and so on and so forth. So now I'm going to bring in my zipper. You can just drag it in. And make sure you hit import and not open. You'll also probably save your file at this point if you haven't done that already. Okay, this part could be a little bit time consuming, but unfortunately you only have to do it once for each line. Now let's see here. Can't quite remember. I believe this zipper has a upside and a downside, so let's see if these are the same dimension. They're not. Okay. So the side that's facing up is the side that we want facing out. I'm also at this point going to make a copy of the outlines of all of my surfaces. So these are all on the layer default. I'm going to go ahead and type in the command SEL SRF select surface. Deselect my 3D surfaces. And with these ones selected, I'm going to type in dupe border. And that new line that's just been created, I'm going to put that also on its own layer. I'll make a new layer, give it a different color. Okay, and now I can turn off my default layer. So Now I'm just dealing with the outlines or the shapes as curves, essentially. Okay, and this next part, what we need to do is I'm also going to go ahead and select that layer, select objects on that layer, and explode all the outlines. And we should make sure, or we should have all like joined single curves for each edge. If we don't, we can just rejoin them. But I'm going to show you the kind of process for adding the zipper to one edge. So what you need to do is kind of make sure that as you apply the zipper to these edges and develop that pattern, I'm also going to make this on a new layer, or a different color, I mean, that we have number one, the orientation all set the same, and number two, that we don't distort the size of these zipper teeth very much. Now we can scale up and down, but we want to work first by getting the right number of teeth per edge, as much as possible. If I take this line and type in length 6.035 inches, the next thing I would do is draw a line starting roughly at the same point as my zipper with the length 6.035 and click. I'm also going to switch on to another layer for this part. Now I can make a copy of the zipper, and if we line it up to our existing line, you can see that it's almost exactly the same length, which is total luck. So what I'm going to do is scale 1D that line. I'm just snapping to the bottom part of the line. And then what I can do is I can go in over here. I have these two edges as individual lines. I'm going to use the command flow. Select objects to flow along a curve. So that's my zipper, right? That's the thing that I want to transpose from this straight line to these lines individually that form the edges of our faces. So I'll press enter. The next step will be, okay, base curve. Now it's important to select this, well, it says right there, select it near one end. So for now, I'm just going to choose one. So I clicked obviously on the left-hand side of this line. That's my baseline. Now it's asking for a target curve, which will be this line. And I'm going to click again towards one side. So we can see that that applied the zipper to this edge. And what's even better is if we go flow again, we'll select the zipper first, press enter, select it near the start point, press enter. Oops, I think I messed up. Flow, zipper, enter, base curve. And now, because we want these edges to match up to each other, instead of clicking this edge, which is where our zipper starts with a gap rather than with a tooth, I'm going to click on the other end because I want the gap to line up to where there's a tooth on the adjoining edge. Just like that. So now we know that if we were to cut this out, and eventually we're going to get to a point where we have just zippers forming all our edges. And now we know that when we put these two edges together, that that they'll line up with each other. The zipper will be kind of synchronized. Okay, so let me demonstrate this one more time on a curved one. I select that one, go to length, 0.512. So again, I could draw a line, 2.512. Okay, work on this layer, keep them separate. Again, I would copy my initial zipper. So it looks like this line is pretty close to that zipper tooth. Again, I want to start with a gap always and end with a tooth. I'll go scale 1D. Go from the end on the bottom of the line, zoom in here, and scale it. And then I would take my zipper line, explode it, deselect it where I don't need it anymore. I could hit join, deselect that, and delete everything else. And now, that's this edge right here. I can go flow, select the zipper, press enter. Okay, And so when this happens, there's another thing to be done. It should be a simple matter of using the command mirror. Again, I'm going to turn copy to off. Now let's try it now. Flow, select the zipper, press enter, select near the start, and near the start. And then it should flip to the other side of the line. Now this edge of F is joining to that edge of D, right? So now I know if I trace my dashed line, okay, I have a tooth right here, which means I need a gap right there. Now when I use the command flow, select the zipper, press enter, select near the start of the curve. So I want my gap to be on this end of the line. I'll click there. And just like that, you would go ahead and populate the rest of the geometry. So let's see. I'm actually just going to do a whole shape for you. You can kind of see what it should look like. So again, I'll use the command length, select one edge, 1.51. Draw a line. 1.551. Oops. So I kind of snap to smart track that I didn't want to. Let me try one more time. So 1.551. Okay. Now we're just under a certain tooth, which means I would just scale 1D it up a little bit. One thing that is important to pay attention to is you'd want to, you really do want to have more teeth. You don't want to go down to like below 2 teeth per edge. So I'll show you what I mean when I get to this really short line. I'll just do this one really quick. Flow, start, start. There you go. So those should line up. This one, 4.551. Again, yeah, with Smart Track, you want to make sure you're not hitting those like intersections because that'll screw up the length that it draws your line at. So 4.551. Okay. Copy my base zipper. We don't end up like, you know, super distorted. L1D to the line, explode. Deselect, join, deselect, delete, flow. Oops. I have a gap there, which means I want a tooth there. Or I'm sorry, I have a tooth there, which means I want a gap there. Looks good. Okay. And then the last little length. This guy, 0.753. Okay, so this is a good example of what I was talking about. We really want to have about 2 teeth minimum. Oh, whoops, where's my line? Oh, okay. Did I get that right? There we go, yeah. We have to mirror that one. Again, look for the gap. So we have a tooth on this side, which means we want a gap on that side. I do that right? Yeah, okay. All right, so that's how you do it. And basically what I'm trying to get at here is, as you go through, eventually you'll be left with outlines that are just formed out of the zipper. And those will be the curves. So when I join this, you should find that it gets closed into one closed curve. And then I could go ahead and make make my cut files out of those parts. Right? That should be the conclusion of this video.